Hi, welcome everyone to my channel. I'm Paige of Knit and Crazy, and here I like to talk about anything related to knitting and crocheting, whether that is yarn, patterns, projects that I'm working on, or any special events. I know which video it's going to be for if you go back to look through my videos, but I will show the project nonetheless, just so if any of you are new here, you'll know what I'm referring to. So I used last year's yarn to make a cardigan. Now, I did purchase the fingering weight yarn last year in January and was into fingering weight projects at the time. So I thought, oh, this will be so great to use for a fingering project that I have in mind. But as I got close to the end of the year, I started to get into more DK weight yarn projects. So I ended up doubling up the yarn strands so that I could make a DK weight yarn project instead of using it as fingering in one strand for a project. But it still worked out great, still looks super great. And in fact, I feel like the double strands give my squares, my sunburst squares, a lot of definition. So this is the cardigan that I crocheted my minis into. And like I said, this is shown in one of my thumbnails, so you'll know which video it is once you see it. But yes, this is the Jethro crochet knitted cardigan. So this is a combination of crocheting and knitting. And the ribbing that's on all the edging is knitted. And of course, I've got needles on here where I am knitting the sleeves. So this is where I left off a couple months ago. I started this at the beginning of the year after the whole month of December was done with last year. And I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with this project. I was originally going to make a painting honeycomb shawl that's by Stephen West. And he does use fingering weight for majority of his projects. But I wasn't really into it. It was really slow paced. And I just really wanted something that was a little quicker. Despite having put this down, unfortunately, and not finishing it, I whipped this out in like maybe a month. I mean, it took me a minute to get all the pieces crocheted into squares, but I mean, yeah, I was just getting it done. But I just put it down because, you know, other projects and other things in life came up. But the way that I situated the colors was I try to keep them in the order of the days of that month. So like if I opened day 1, day 2, day 3, I kept them in that order of when they occurred. Now, I wasn't able to squeeze in like 2 or 3 of the days of that month because it didn't work out evenly for the whole cardigan. So I had to omit those colors, unfortunately, but they weren't really that exciting of colors anyways for me, so it worked out. But I pretty much started up here at the top and then zigzag my way down on both sides with the colors so that they're evenly distributed. And then I proceeded on the back side, starting with the top and working my way inward, outward as I went down. And I used the continuous join method with Drops Merino beige colored yarn. And I thought that this just came out really nice. I love the colors all together. They're just such a nice gradient fade. And this is the order of colors that Hue Loco had set up in her calendar. So it worked out great with how I set them all up. I didn't have to purposely make them gradient as they are. They were just already like that from every day that I opened them up. So that was the Botanical Advent calendar from last year. There was a 25th day full skein, which is what you typically get. You get 24 mini skeins that are 20 grams each, and then one full skein at 100 grams for the 25th day. And I was unable to incorporate the 25th day full skein into this project instead of the beige because the colors just didn't really work well together. They weren't very cohesive. The color of the full skein was like a dark green to light green speckled tonal type yarn. So it just, I understood the idea from it because botanical, you know, it's the greenery with all the pretty flowers that these colors represent, but it really muddled all these other pretty colors. So I just wanted something that was a little bit more neutral to kind of help the colors pop and stand out better. But I still put that yarn to good use. I used it to make this cute bag. That is by TLY Crafts or Tony Lipsy Crafts. And it's this green, which is a beautiful forest green. I mean, it's got like some yellows in there and some blues, mostly greens. So it did crochet up a really pretty bag. And I used some leftovers for the rainbow colors from a different project that I did that was a blanket. And I made an I-cord tie with the same full skein from the advent calendar. So all the yarn was put to good use, and I was able to make 2 projects basically out of the whole calendar. So at some point I'm gonna get that finished because I do want to wear it. It looks a bit small right now, but that's because I'm kind of a tight crocheter knitter. Being that it's merino wool, when I go to wash and block it, it will grow a bit. So I'm not super worried about it yet, but we'll see. I think it's gonna fit perfectly whenever I get done getting it all wrapped up and blocked and everything. So today's video is gonna be about this year's advent calendar, which is the Starlight Fade Advent calendar. Yes, Starlight Fade. So this is the same concept. It's gonna have 24 minis and 1 full skein. I am going to open the box to kind of show all the little boxes inside with their color name assignments, but I will not be opening the boxes today. Today is November 15th, and I did receive this box on October 24th, so she did ship it really early, which is fine. I like to be ready. I didn't want it to be late, and then I missed my first few days of December, but I will not be opening the mini boxes until their assigned days in December. So these are the colors that are anticipated for the calendar. So obviously it doesn't give away the exact colors of the yarn. This is just what they're going to be inspired from. Similar to last year's botanical yarn, she gave a color palette, so you kind of got an idea of what the whole calendar was going to look like for the year. Well, not for the year, but you know, for that month. And to give a little information about the yarn, it's 24 skeins that are 20 grams each, and then 1 full skein at 100 grams. I chose the DK weight yarn, which is 75-25 superwash merino nylon, 49 yards per mini, 230 yards for the full skein. So that's about 1,400 yards to work with. And I wanted to also go through a couple pattern ideas in this video before I get started with actually opening the boxes in December. My plan is similar to what Tony Lipsy did last year with the botanical advent yarn. She took one of her patterns that she designed and basically Tunisian crocheted up a wrap for each day. So she opened up a box, enjoyed all the color from the yarn, wounded it up immediately, and then crocheted it into a wrap for like a shawl essentially. And she did this every day. So instead of opening all the boxes and then waiting to start a project with the colors, she just opened up a box and then put it in her project immediately. So then by the 25th, she pretty much had a completed wrap instead of waiting a whole nother month later like I did last year. So I thought that was a super great idea, and I haven't settled fully on a pattern just yet. I have an idea, and it might be the one she did last year, but I really wanted to go through a couple of patterns to share with you guys as ideas in case any of you that knit and crochet would like to consider any of these patterns, or if maybe you got an advent calendar for yourself and you have absolutely no idea like what you're going to do with it. So I just wanted to be a source of inspiration for any of you guys. But let's first check out what's inside the box. So this is the Starlight Fade box, and this is how it was shipped to me. I have all of it marked out, but nice and clean, easy to access box. And ta-da! This is all the little mini boxes with their color assignment names at the top, so that you know the name of the yarn as you open them. Now believe me, I have been so tempted to open just one of these, like just so I can get a little taste of what I'm about to open for the month, but I have really restrained myself. This is the 25th day full skein, and yeah, that's pretty much all there is to see at the moment. I will be showing all of the boxes as I open them in a separate video whenever December comes. So for now, she will be hidden away from my view so that I am not tempted to open any of them. So let's go ahead and get started with a couple of advent pattern ideas. I have about 22 patterns. Yes, I couldn't help myself and just saved a bunch of different ones that I came across. I wanted to talk a little about each one of them, on how I feel about it, what I like about it, what I don't like about it. So the first pattern we're going to take a look at is the Slay All Day Advent Wrap by Allison Stufer. This is a really cool different section design wrap where it's not like the same throughout the whole thing, but it has like consistent elements to it. I like that it's got brioche and reverse stockinette, or maybe garter, breaking up the different designs in between. You have some lace work Looks like some slip stitches. Yeah, I think there's just mostly like slip, lace work, and brioche. And then reverse garter or reverse stockinette or garter, whatever it is that's kind of breaking up each section. The way you can do this wrap is essentially as it's set up for as an Advent wrap. You can pretty much just start on it from the first day, get your yarn wound up, start knitting it in that at the starting place in the pattern, and then just add a color on every day that you do something. And instead of like cutting your yarn at a certain place, just keep knitting until you run out and then connect your next yarn. Like you don't have to section the minis into a strict place. You can just literally do it like a fade. So I don't know if maybe the yarn just really blended well with one another as you knitted the shawl, or if this person like hard cut off the yarn at a certain place and then started a new yarn and then they had leftovers. This pattern is fingering plus a lace, but the lace is optional. The lace doesn't change the weight of the yarn. If you put a fingering and fingering held together, that makes a DK, which makes it a little bit thicker. But if you put a fingering with lace, it's still fingering. The lace is just to kind of give it a little bit of a halo, fuzzy look to it, and it's optional. So you don't have to do that. And it recommends a US 6 or 4.0 millimeter needle. It requires between 1,920 to 2,800 yards of yarn. That is variable. I think you can kind of change the length of that wrap. You don't have to have 2,800 yards of yarn to complete this wrap. I think that's just the recommendation length if you have that much. So I think you can pretty much just like decrease at a point where you have enough yarn to finish off, and then you've got a completed wrap. So as a reminder, the yarn total for this calendar is 1,400 yards. So if I use this pattern, I'm gonna have to wrap it up sooner than when the pattern recommends because I'm not gonna have enough yarn. The next pattern is Wrap It Real Good. I love these names, they're so clever. This one is by Amba O'Brien. I don't know if there's a different way of pronouncing that name, so I apologize. This one is DK weight. It calls for US 8 or 5 millimeter needles and does not require even the full amount of yarn that this calendar has, but I think you can extend the wrap if you want. So the previous wrap, you would have to shorten it before you finish because you may not have enough yarn. In this case, you could lengthen it if you want to use all of your yarn. It calls for 950 to 960 yards, and it is a $7 pattern. So it does say that if you subscribe to their website, I believe, you get to enjoy 30% off your next pattern that you purchase from them. So that's pretty cool. I had never heard of this designer before. And it does give you some other detailed information below, just like any other patterns that you can find on Ravelry. And that even includes information about the Advent yarn that they may have used for this wrap as well. It's a very pretty colored wrap. I like the warm tone colors and some cool tones barely in there, but just a little bit. Yeah, I like the lace look of it, the little ripple effect they've got going. They got a lot of eyelets in there. It does look very nice wrapped around the neck as well. Majority of these patterns I've saved. They're also good stash busting projects as well. So they're very versatile. So that is the Wrap It Real Good pattern. The next one is another wrap called Good Things by Hannah Vera. It's got a little bit more intricate lace work in it, but it's got that kind of leafy ripple effect through it. And I see a lot of people posted some photos of their wraps and a lot of pretty colors. I like the gradient, like cool to warm tone colors that people set up in their wrap. It's fingering. It requires US 4, which is 3.5 millimeter needle, and the max is 960 yards needed for yarn. There's some other information below. It tells you the length and width when it's done, and a lot of other good information to have down here, like what kind of stitches are used, what skills are required. So yeah, this is definitely worth taking a look at if you're interested in the way that the design is and you have some yarn that you'd like to use other than Advent. So the next pattern that we have is the Cat Vent Wrap by Marna Gilligan. Oh, it does have little cats, like Fair Isle cats, I think, or their paw prints. So yeah, those little cat heads in the blue section, that is pretty cool. I like this one. Yeah, it's very rainbowy. It's got some gray to kind of break up all the rainbow. And I think that's the end. This is really nice. I kind of like this one. I like that it's different. in each section. I mean, I know we already saw a couple wraps before this one that had the same concept, but got like a different look about itself. Yeah, that's a really nice wrap. I like that one. And it gives you like a little diagram of how the whole wrap looks in, you know, a color scheme. So yeah, this is definitely a really good one. It is fingering weight, requires US 5 or 3.75 millimeter needles, and only needs 1,958 yards of yarn. So the pattern is 6 GBP. It's not in US dollars, so I will put the conversion of what it costs on the screen. Yeah, this is a really cool wrap. I like all the different sections and then broken up with the white and eyelets. Yeah, this is really nice. I like this one. I'm glad I picked that one to share with you all. The next one is by one of my favorite designers, Tony Lipsy, called the Patchwork Granny Blanket. Now this is your standard granny square blanket. Nothing super special or that anyone has never done before, but it is a pretty cool way to get rid of your stash or use your advent calendar. Now, unfortunately, this blanket, you're not gonna be able to get a whole blanket, I don't think, out of your whole advent, but maybe you can. It does say that the yardage required is 1,000 to 1,100 yards, so maybe you can be able to get the whole blanket out of all your advent yarn. It is fingering weight and it does require a 4 millimeter hook size. It's going to be 48 by 62 in dimension when it's completed. This is a pattern you can purchase or read for free on her blog as long as you're okay with the ads. It does say start your patchwork granny blanket here, and it has a link you can click, so I wonder what it will do. Oh, so it is just a fully free pattern. She didn't charge for this one. So yeah, and she's got like a little blog before it to kind of give you ideas on how to organize your colors, those kind of things. She does have a YouTube video on how to do these squares and even her journey and process for how she came across doing this blanket. From what I remember when I watched the YouTube video, she had purchased a bunch of mini skeins through COVID because she was like, in her words, acting like it was gonna be the last time she could ever buy minis, like they're going out of stock or something. And she purchased them from different yarn dyers, not from the same one. And over time she realized she had like a lot. So she was trying to condense her stash, and she was just crocheting a bunch of squares with all the minis and didn't do anything with them for several years. And then all of a sudden, I think last year when she put together this little pattern, she decided to go ahead and just put them all together to make a blanket. So I will include her YouTube video link in my description so that you can have easy access to her channel. I love her channel, I follow it, and I enjoy her content. All right, the next pattern that I have is All Together Now Infinity by Jamie Lomax. Jamie Lomax is another designer I follow on Instagram. She is the Fair Isle Queen. And if you don't know what Fair Isle is, it's a type of knitting with stranded color work, and it essentially creates patterns or designs within stockinette stitch. As you can see here, this is, you know, a certain design she came up with where she uses black to break up the colors a good bit, but she has like a little color assignment fade that goes throughout, and it just looks really cool and stripy. I like her color assignments that she has. And Affinity scarf, it just is a long tube that you can wrap around your neck twice so that it doesn't fall off or anything like a regular scarf. So you knit it as a tube, it's not knitted flat, and then you connect it at the end when you're done with a certain bind off. I can't remember the name of it. So she puts that you can use any yarn weight. You don't have to use fingering or DK strictly. You can use any kind of yarn weight, so that's helpful. It requires 200 to 1,000 yards of yarn. So that definitely meets the requirements that I have for my calendar. This is an $8 pattern, and I don't think she offers it free if with ads on a website. So you do have to pay $8 for this particular pattern. She does put in the description below that the pattern is written for any gauge, including worsted, sport, DK, and fingering weight yarn. She also includes whatever special techniques you need to have, the finished measurements, suggested yarns. This pattern is intended to use for leftovers, so please explore options for each weight that are in your stash. You can change the size of the scarf if you don't have enough or if you have too much, so you don't have to do it exactly at the size recommendation she gives. So yeah, this is a really good stash busting or advent calendar project. All right, the next one I was considering last year when I was exploring patterns for my botanical calendar. I just didn't settle on this one because it just seemed like it would take forever to me. It is a very long scarf. I mean, look at where he's holding that scarf compared to the ground. He's literally standing on a step to his doorway to show the full length of that thing. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. Stephen West is a awesome designer. Like, I love doing his MCAL shawls every year. That's kind of the only thing I've ever participated in that's his, but he just has really unique and interesting designs. He definitely does not do the same boring thing over and over. And that's okay if they do that, but that's just not his style. So yeah, this is a really cool wrap that looks like you just can use stash busting yarn, and you can make it as long or as short as you want. It's just never ending basically, or you can just have it be forever if you want. I mean, Guinness World Record, why not? So he has a lot of different stitch textures going on. He's got ripples, he's got like some gradient looks. This is a really awesome looking wrap. It's called the Melting Marl Scarf. 3 strands of fingering plus a sport weight to make it DK. I think this is a pretty adjustable pattern. It's not something that's just strict the way it is. It requires a US 8 or 5mm needle, and the recommendation for this pattern in the pictures is 3,200 yards of yarn. But like I said, you can shorten it, make it longer if you want, so that's not a specific restriction. Pattern is €7, so I'll convert it to US dollars on the screen. So yeah, he used a lot of scraps that he had, it looks like, to make this wrap. I have saved, it's called the Perennial, or by Lisa K. Ross. First of all, it was eye-catching with how she laid out this scarf or this wrap just for the cover photo. Like, why would you not click on that? Like, that is just amazing how she just sectioned it and folded it a certain way to where it was like perfectly lined up like that. I'm just amazed with that, first off. Second, when it's all like spread out, it has very simple but detailed lace work that is just gorgeous. I don't really have another word to describe it. And it's giving a fire and ice and earth kind of vibe, but it's like giving more like earth element feeling to it with the colors. Obviously this could look totally different if you used other colors like for your yarn advent or stash busting, but this is another one of those really great projects that you could use any yarns that you have on hand. It is a fingering weight, US 4 needle or 3.5mm, and only requires up to 800 yards of yarn. It is a $7 pattern. Some of these patterns are usually around the same price from each other, so $7 seems to be the common price that I've been noticing a lot with these patterns. Just to kind of give a little description, she put, maybe some loves are perennials, they survive the winter and bloom again, by Glennon Doyle Melton. So it was a quote. And then she proceeded to say, perennial plants, when cultivated, can be everlasting. They come back year after year, no matter what happens in between. Hand knits, when carefully tended, are the same. This scarf is effortlessly knit on the bias, highlights your palette, drapes beautifully when worn, and will return year after year to keep you warm and stylish. It's the perfect canvas to play with beautiful yarns, transitioning colors through a combination of garter, stockinette, and easy to knit wildflower. That is beautiful. Just makes me cry. Not really, but it is still very touching. I love that. It just makes it so hard for me to find the right pattern because I want to do all of them. I haven't really come across any of them I don't like yet. I mean, obviously that's why I saved them, but sometimes you can save patterns that you think look good at first, but then after you kind of read into it and look at it more, you're like, I don't really know if I like this as much as I thought I did on first impression. But this one is just poetic to me. Like, it just screams poetic. And it's not a wrap, it is a scarf. So it's a little bit of a different pattern than what I've been showing lately. The next one is called True Colors by Melanie Berg. And this is another lacy sectioned looking wrap. And it's got a kind of chevron edging to it, so it's not flat. It looks very elegant, very delicate, and I can already tell that this is probably fingering weight. Yes, it is. Fingering weight is the recommended weight size. Recommended needle size is US 6 or 4mm and only requires 987 yards. It is a $7.50 pattern in euros, so I'll convert it on the screen. It says it has a free row map included, which makes knitting more accessible for chemotherapy patients and others who struggle with their concentration. Well, that's nice. I didn't even realize what I was reading until I got halfway through the sentence. Making something more accessible for people with any disabilities and such. So yeah, that's a really awesome pattern I would consider if I had some fingering weight. I mean, I have some fingering weight, but it's already tied up in some other projects, so I'd have to buy some. The next pattern is the Resplendence Shawl by Stephen West. He has a really clever way of naming his projects. I love the names he gives these projects. This one is a very unique shaped shawl. It's almost between a wrap and a shawl because it's rectangular and long, but it's not fully straight edged. It's got a lot of chiffon edging and waviness and then a straight side. Yes, I love these colors. Again, it gives a fire and ice kind of look to it for these colors specifically. I have done that design before, especially recently with the MCAL. It's like a ripple. So it's a lot of knit twos and make ones, stitch and eyelets. Those are pretty easy techniques, even for beginners. This is a really cool stash busting project. Looks like you can probably adjust it to make it as long or as short as you'd like. It is fingering weight. It requires a US 5 or 3.75 millimeter needle. And for the pattern, he recommends 2,430 yards. So I guess if you make it any shorter, you won't really be able to wrap it too many times around your neck. It might be a little finicky on that, so I actually don't really recommend shortening the length of it just because it already seems a bit short the way he has it wrapped around his neck currently. You want it to be long enough to at least get over your shoulders, so I wouldn't recommend shortening it, but you can probably make it as long as you want. You probably can still make it even longer than the recommended pattern says. All right, the next pattern is by Tony Lipsy again. As you can tell, I have a couple designers that I really favorite in here, and I'm just familiar with their stuff, so it's what I can recommend. This is the Adventurous scarf. Love, clever. They must have consulted ChatGPT or something, because or maybe I'm just not that creative. I don't think I could come up with these names. This one is a light fingering. The hook size is 5 millimeters, approximately 1,040 yards of category number 1 fingering yarn in 13 colors. Many skein advents vary. Adjust the number of skeins in your project as you like. It is Tunisian crochet as well. It's not traditional crochet. And yeah, it's got a nice stripy look to it. This is the pretty simple stitch technique for Tunisian crochet. It's equivalent to single crochet. I've done that stitch texture before on a shawl that I haven't finished that I've had for 2 years. But this is just a scarf. It's not a wrap. I think, again, you can adjust it however short or however long you want. Looks like this one you can wrap around your neck twice. 1,040 yards is pretty good. That's still less than what my whole calendar has. So yeah, that is a nice project to consider. All right, the next project we have is the Wool Sia shawl. This one is a very simple eyelet, elegant looking shawl. And this is your traditional shawl. This is triangular looking shawl pattern. Of course, the person who designed this still played around with the shape of the shawl, and it's not like perfectly triangular like a traditional shawl, but it is pretty traditional as it can get. I think you can still adjust this to make it as long as you'd like, to add as many colors as you'd like. It is fingering yarn, US 5 or 3.75 millimeter needle, and requires up to 960 yards of yarn. And it is a $7 pattern. And of course, they offer that subscribe and enjoy 30% off your next pattern purchase. You could purchase more than one pattern if you like and maybe get 30% off. The next one is a Lamina cowl and wrap. I think they offer it as either or. So you can either make it as a cowl or you can make it as a wrap. That's pretty cool. So you get kind of 2 in 1, it seems. I like a wrap better than a cowl just because a cowl is what it is. You can only just wrap it around your neck and that's it. With a wrap, you can drape it on your shoulders or wrap it around your neck, so you have a little bit more versatility to it. But this is another like lacy weight, a lacy design with some wavy border sections to kind of break it up. Yeah, this is really nice. I like all the colors. Fingering weight, US 5 or 3.75 millimeter needle, and you just need up to 1,260 yards to make this, and it's a $7 pattern. The next pattern I have saved is the Pelargonium. Please don't make fun of me for saying it like that. I don't know if that's the correct way. By Beata Jezek, who is the yarn dyer for Hedgehog Vibes. She's based out of Ireland. This is a DK weight yarn project. She recommends a fingering and a fingering held together to make DK, but you can just use DK yarn if you want, like I have. And it is US 6 or 4mm needle size, and you need 1,640 to 1,750 yards of yarn, which I have 1,400, and it is a free pattern. The one thing I do like about Hedgehog Fibers is that she does design some patterns, and all of them are free. Now, she does obviously recommend you purchase her yarns, which is kind of the payoff, is that she designs, but she gets her money through her yarn dyeing. So all her patterns are obviously advertised with her yarn. And I have purchased her yarn before, and I love her punchy neon colors. They're just so modern and so like bold. But this one, I like her color combinations. It's funky, but also very subtle at the same time. It looks pretty long, so I guess if I'd used all of my minis, including the full skein, it can still be long enough. Yeah, that's a pretty wrap. I like that one a lot. All right, next one is Ziggy Interrupted by Sandra Paul. And what I like about this one is it's mostly crocheted chevrons, and then at the end of each side, and throughout the middle sections, I see there's little mini granny squares. That is so cool. I like that. I could definitely see myself doing this, and I love the little tassels at the end. I like the colors. I like that mustard yellow. That's such a pretty color. It's fingering weight. It requires a 3mm hook size, needs 1,748 to 2,145 yards of yarn, and it's available in both US and UK terminology. The pattern is 5GBP, so I'll convert that to US dollars. There's a bunch of information about the pattern below before you purchase, and yeah, I really like the uniqueness of this. I love the little mini granny squares. It's so cute. I love it. So that is a really fun project to consider for stash busting even. I think a lot of patterns, honestly, are pretty good for stash busting. All right, so the next pattern we have is the Sonder Advent Wrap by Mariana Mueller. Oh, this is a really cool design. It's got kind of like a blended, like step over color kind of thing. Like it's got, I like the crisscrossiness of certain places on it. I like the colors of the other projects people did. This is fingering weight with a 4mm hook size. It requires 1,203 to 1,312 yards of yarn. And it's a $7 pattern. It's an intermediate skill level. Now make sure you understand a lot of those skills required. It doesn't show what stitches you need to know before you purchase this pattern. Just at least know that you gotta at least have some intermediate knowledge of crochet before you get into a project like this. All right, so the next pattern is the Fade into Advent by Lisa K. Ross. This one looks like a very large shawl. I'm assuming it's a shawl, not a wrap. But it's got really a cool diamond shape to it with how the colors fade and how she's got it like sectioned within itself. Like there's some lines that run throughout the project that stand out, that have some texture. This is a very pretty shawl. I love the color fade on this. So this one is fingering weight, US 6 or 4mm needle size, and requires 2,000 to 2,500 yards. And it is a $7 pattern, and it's a knitting project. I was thinking it was crochet at first. It kind of looked a little crochet. It's a 108-inch wingspan. Whew, that is a large shawl. That's almost like a big old blanket, almost like a long blanket. I'm pretty sure it'll definitely keep you warm. Yeah, that's a pretty pattern. I like that one. It is the Painting Bricks Scarf by Stephen West. This was similar to what I was going to do last year with the fingering weight botanical advent yarn, but it was a scarf more than a wrap. So it's a similar design element, just a different shape and different weight, of course. He definitely has a scrappy look going on about this. In fact, he even shows a picture of all the scrap yarn that he had. So this is definitely a good scrap busting project. If the 25th Day yarn is cohesive with the 24 mini skeins, that would be a really great border yarn for all these colors that he's showing. But you would have to wait till you're done opening all the boxes to be able to do that, obviously, because you can't, knit all the smaller colored sections without your border yarn. But this is a DK weight yarn project. Requires a US 7 or 4.5mm needle, and only needs 830 to 1,300 yards of yarn. So that's pretty attainable. And it is a €7 pattern. And he provides some other description information below. Okay, so the next pattern we have is the Sun and Soul Wrap by Tiff Nellen. It's kind of cool. Okay, that's a really cool design element. She put a tassel on one side, on one corner, and then the other side it just has a peacock edge. That's really cool. I like that. It just creates some asymmetry to it. It's not perfect on both sides being equal. I like the color layout, the colors that she put together with the oranges and the corals and the creams. This is a fingering held together double, so to make DK, or if you just want to use DK, and it requires a US 8 or 5mm needle and needs only 955 to 1,905 yards of yarn. So the next pattern in the bundle, which is the only sweater pattern that I found, and that is the Scrappy Stripes sweater by Mary Gannon. This is a DK weight yarn project with 2 needle sizes needed, one for the main body and arms and another for the ribbing edge. It is US 6 4mm and US 5 3.75mm. It does require 704 to 1,717 yards of yarn, and it has 9 sizes available from extra small to 5XL. So it is most certainly size inclusive, which I like. This pattern is $8, so it's pretty standard, reasonable price. And she did put in her information that she used the Green Letter Day DK merino yarn. She just has a look about her yarn I just can't describe, and it's amazing. But yeah, I love the way that this person assigned their colors in the order they did, used like a really, really dark navy blue to break it all up. So yeah, this is a very good stash busting project. And if you have enough yarn for an advent, like maybe just add on a little bit of extra minis, you could make a whole sweater from your calendar. But since my calendar only includes 1,400 yards, I'm not going to probably be able to make this whole sweater with it, unfortunately. This is the one I am more than likely going to do for this year's advent calendar, and that is the Bahama Advent Wrap by Tony Lipsy. This is a Tunisian crochet project. It is DK weight with a hook size of 6.5mm and requires 1,100 yards to 1,200 yards of yarn, and it is a $7.50 pattern. So she took this pattern from her original Bahama wrap. So I don't quite know what the difference is between this one and her original one. Maybe she just changed the dimensions and the sizing for this to accommodate an advent. But this is the project she did last year during the botanical advent calendar season. And she crocheted each mini in each day that she opened, and pretty much had a fully done project at the end of the whole month. These colors are the exact colors of the botanical yarn from last year. Like, this is the exact calendar. I mean, just, these are just amazing colors, and she did such an excellent job. I don't know. I can't even give her compliments for the color assignment, because she did the same thing I did with my cardigan, and she crocheted them in the order of the days that she opened the boxes. So I really give the compliments to Hue Loco for the color. I mean, it's just beautiful. I mean, I think this is pretty much the winner. And I think I already know what I'm going to be doing. I haven't done enough Tunisian crochet like I want to, but I've done it once enough to understand the process. And this is a pretty simple stitch. It's not super complicated. And she also has tutorial videos. So I have plenty of resources to get me started. She also has some discounts where if you buy more, you save more. You can use certain coupon codes to get 10% off of 3 patterns, 15% off of 5 patterns, and 20% off of 8 patterns. She does have a blog website, YouTube, as I mentioned. Pretty much going to wrap up this video as the first part of the Advent season until we can get started on actually crocheting. So I hope you guys have enjoyed these patterns that I have picked out for this particular event of the year. And if you'd like to check out all these patterns where they're easily accessible, I have included the link for my Ravelry where you can access all these patterns and save as a bundle for yourself. Thank you all for joining me in this video today, and please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.